The tiniest person I'd ever seen in my corporate sanctuary walked in. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old, with tangled blonde curls and a dress that had seen better days. She climbed onto the chair across from my desk and looked me straight in the eye with the kind of directness that only children possess. "Are you the boss lady?" she asked. "I am," I said. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Katie. I have a very important question." I leaned back, intrigued despite myself. "What's that?" She looked me straight in the eye and said the words that would change everything. "Where can I buy a mom?" The question hit me like a physical blow. But what happened next, when I learned her father's name, when I discovered the impossible connection between this little girl and the biggest mistake of my life? That's when I realized some things can't be bought. They can only be given from the heart. The rain drummed against the floor-to-ceiling windows of my corner office, each droplet a tiny percussion in the symphony of my perfectly ordered life. I was Ella Grace, CEO of Grace Enterprises, worth more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes, and yet sitting there at my mahogany desk, I felt emptier than the champagne flutes from last night's board meeting celebration. I was reviewing quarterly reports when my assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Miss Grace, there's a situation at reception. A child is asking to see you." "A child?" I frowned, glancing at my calendar. "I don't have any appointments with..." "She says she wants to buy something from you." I sighed, already reaching for my phone to call security. The last thing I needed was some disruption to my meticulously planned day, but something in my assistant's tone made me pause. "Send her up." 5 minutes later, my office door opened, and in walked the tiniest person I'd ever seen in my corporate sanctuary. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old, with tangled blonde curls escaping from a crooked ponytail, and wearing a dress that had seen better days. Her sneakers squeaked against my polished marble floor as she approached my desk with the confidence of someone who owned the world. "Are you the boss lady?" she asked, her voice small but determined. "I am," I said, setting down my pen and studying her carefully. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Katie." She climbed onto the chair across from my desk, her legs swinging freely. "I have a very important question." I leaned back in my leather chair, intrigued despite myself. "What's that?" She looked me straight in the eye with the kind of directness that only children possess. "Where can I buy a mom?" The question hit me like a physical blow. My breath caught in my throat, and for a moment, the rain outside seemed to pause. "I'm sorry. What did you say?" "A mom," she repeated matter-of-factly. "Daddy said you can buy anything if you have enough money, and this building has lots of money, right? So I figured you might sell moms here." I stared at this little girl, my mind reeling. Something about her seemed familiar, but I couldn't place it. "Katie, where is your daddy?" "He's in the hospital." Her voice wavered slightly. "He's been there a long time. The doctors say he's very sick." My heart clenched. "And where's your mom?" "I don't have one." She shrugged, but I could see the pain behind her casual gesture. "Daddy says she went away when I was born, but I thought maybe I could buy a new one." "I have." She dug into her pocket and pulled out a crumpled handful of bills and coins. $17.53. I felt tears prick my eyes. This brave little girl trying to buy a mother with her allowance money. "Okay, Katie, what's your daddy's name?" Daniel Morrison." The name hit me like lightning. My pen clattered to the desk, and I gripped the armrests of my chair. Daniel Morrison, the name I'd tried to forget for 7 years. The name that still appeared in my dreams, attached to memories I'd buried under layers of corporate success and calculated ambition. "Katie," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Does your daddy have dark hair and green eyes?" She nodded enthusiastically. "Do you know him?" "Know him? I'd loved him. I'd been pregnant with his child, and I'd made the worst mistake of my life by walking away." Yes, I know him." I stood up on shaky legs. "Katie, I need you to tell me exactly which hospital he's in." The drive to St. Mary's Hospital felt like the longest journey of my life. Katie sat in the passenger seat of my Tesla, chattering about her daddy and their small apartment, about how he read her stories every night and made the best pancakes in the world. With every word, the knife in my heart twisted deeper. 7 years ago, I'd been a different person. I was 25, ambitious and terrified. When I'd discovered I was pregnant with Daniel's baby, I'd seen it as an obstacle to my carefully planned career trajectory. I was supposed to take over my father's company. I was supposed to be strong, independent, unstoppable. So I'd made a choice that haunted me every single day since. I'd had the abortion without telling Daniel, and then I'd disappeared from his life completely. I'd thrown myself into work, built an empire, and convinced myself I'd made the right decision. But now, looking at Katie, this beautiful, brave little girl who was unmistakably Daniel's daughter, I realized I'd made a terrible mistake, not just in leaving Daniel, but in thinking that success could fill the void I'd created in my heart. "He's in room 314, Katie said, as we walked through the hospital corridors. "The nurses all know me because I visit every day after school." My hands were shaking as we approached the room. Through the small window I could see him. Daniel. He was thinner than I remembered, his face pale against the white pillows. But he was still the man I'd loved with everything I had, the man I'd been too afraid to fight for. Katie pushed open the door and bounced inside. "Daddy, I brought someone to meet you." Daniel's eyes opened, and when they landed on me, I watched every emotion I'd ever felt reflected back at me. Shock, hurt, confusion, and underneath it all, the love that had never really died. "Ella." His voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. "Hello, Daniel." I stepped into the room, my legs feeling like jelly. "Hi, Katie came to see me today." He struggled to sit up, his eyes never leaving mine. "Katie, sweetheart, how do you know this lady?" "She's the boss lady with all the money. I asked her where I could buy a mom, and she said she knew you." Katie climbed onto the bed beside him, and I watched Daniel's face transform with love as he looked at his daughter. "You went looking for a mom?" he asked gently. "I thought if I could buy one, you wouldn't have to worry about me when you—" Her voice trailed off, and I saw Daniel's eyes fill with tears. "Oh, baby girl," he whispered, pulling her close. "You don't need to worry about that." I stood there, watching this tender moment between father and daughter, feeling like an intruder in their love story. But then Daniel looked at me over Katie's head, and I saw something in his eyes that made my heart skip. "Ella," he said quietly, "we need to talk." That evening, after Katie had fallen asleep in the hospital chair, Daniel and I sat in the small family room down the hall. The fluorescent lights were harsh, but somehow, in that sterile space, we found our way back to each other. "The doctors say I have maybe 6 weeks," Daniel said without preamble. "Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "Daniel, I'm so sorry. I had no idea." "How could you?" There was no bitterness in his voice, just exhaustion. "You disappeared, Ella. One day you were there, and the next you were gone. No explanation, no goodbye, just gone." I closed my eyes, the shame washing over me. I was scared. Of what? Of you. Of what we had. Of what it meant. I opened my eyes and met his gaze. "I was pregnant, Daniel." He went very still. "What?" 7 years ago, after that last night we spent together, I found out I was pregnant. The words tumbled out of me like a dam bursting. I was 25 and ambitious and terrified that having a baby would derail everything I'd worked for. So I made a choice. And then I ran because I couldn't face what I'd done. I couldn't face you. Daniel stared at me for a long moment, processing. "You were pregnant," he repeated slowly, "with my child." "Yes." "And you didn't tell me." I was a coward. Tears were streaming down my face now. I've regretted it every single day since. I built this empire, Daniel, but it's all empty. Every success, every achievement, it's all hollow because I threw away the only thing that ever really mattered. Have you ever wondered what would happen if you got a second chance to fix the biggest mistake of your life? What if someone walked into your world and gave you the opportunity to rewrite your story? Not just for yourself, but for an innocent child who desperately needs what only you can give. Comment below what would be your response in moments like this. If you've ever felt that tug in your heart, that whisper that says there has to be more to life than this, then you understand exactly what Ella was feeling in that hospital room. Because sometimes, the most beautiful beginnings come from our most painful endings. What happens next will show you that it's never too late to choose love over fear, to choose family over fortune, and to discover that the greatest success isn't what you build for yourself, but what you build for others. Subscribe to this channel, like and share this video, and comment below your thoughts on this video. He was quiet for so long that I thought he might never speak to me again. Then finally he asked, "What happened to the baby?" "I terminated the pregnancy." The words came out as barely a whisper. "I'm so sorry, Daniel. I'm so sorry." He nodded slowly, and I could see him working through the emotions. "Katie's mom left when she was born," he said finally. "She said she wasn't ready to be a mother. I raised Katie alone, and you know what? It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Being her father gave my life meaning. "She's beautiful," I said. "She's so much like you. She's the reason I've been fighting so hard to stay alive." His voice broke. "She's going to be alone, Ella. My sister lives in Australia, and she's the only family I have left. I don't know what's going to happen to Katie when I'm gone." The words were out of my mouth before I could stop them. "I'll take care of her." Daniel looked at me sharply. "What?" "I'll take care of her. I'll be her mom, if she'll have me." I leaned forward, desperate to make him understand. "I know I don't deserve it. I know I have no right to ask. But I love her already, Daniel. And I still love you. I never stopped. Ella, I know it's too late for us. I know I destroyed any chance we had. But please, let me do this one thing right. Let me be the mother she needs." Daniel was quiet for a long time, and I could see the wheels turning in his mind. Finally he spoke. "She asked me about you once, about her biological mother. I told her that sometimes people make mistakes when they're young and scared, but that doesn't mean they don't love you. You told her about me." I told her that her mother was brilliant and beautiful, and that she had your eyes. He smiled sadly. "I always hoped that someday you'd come back. Not for me, but for her. I wanted her to know that she was wanted, even if the timing was wrong." I was crying harder now, overwhelmed by his grace and forgiveness. "How can you not hate me?" "Because hate is a luxury I can't afford," he said simply. "I'm dying, Ella, and my daughter needs someone who will love her the way she deserves to be loved. If you're willing to step up and be that person, then I'm willing to let you try." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of lawyers, paperwork, and getting to know Katie. I moved into a small apartment near the hospital, something I'd never imagined myself doing. I, who had lived in penthouses and corner offices, found myself perfectly content in a modest 2-bedroom space filled with Katie's drawings and Daniel's books. Every day, we'd visit Daniel together. I watched him with Katie, memorizing the way he braided her hair and the stories he told her about brave princesses and magical kingdoms. I learned about their routines, their inside jokes, their quiet moments of perfect understanding. And slowly, carefully, I began to build a relationship with Katie. She was curious about me, asking endless questions about my work, my car, my life. But more than that, she seemed to sense something deeper. "Are you sad?" she asked me one afternoon, as we sat in the hospital cafeteria, sharing a chocolate chip cookie. "Why do you ask? You get this look sometimes, like you lost something important." I looked at this wise little girl and felt my heart break all over again. I did lose something important. I lost your daddy a long time ago. But you found him again, she pointed out. And you found me too. "That's true," I smiled through my tears. "I found you both." "Good," she said, taking another bite of cookie. "Because I decided I don't want to buy a mom anymore. I want to keep you." Daniel passed away on a Tuesday morning in early November. Katie and I were both there, holding his hands as he slipped away peacefully in his sleep. His last words were, "Take care of each other," and I promised him we would. The funeral was small but beautiful. Daniel's few close friends shared stories about his kindness, his humor, his devotion to Katie. I spoke about the man I'd loved and lost and found again, and about the gift he'd given me in trusting me with his most precious treasure. Katie was incredibly brave, standing beside me as we said goodbye to her daddy. She held my hand throughout the entire service, and when it was over she looked up at me with those green eyes so much like Daniel's and said, "What happens now?" "Now we go home," I said. "We learn how to be a family." The transition wasn't easy. Katie had nightmares, and I had no idea how to braid hair or make proper pancakes. I'd never been responsible for another person's emotional well-being, and the learning curve was steep. But slowly, we found our rhythm. I hired a nanny to help with the practical things, but I made sure I was there for the important moments. I learned to read bedtime stories with different voices for each character. I figured out how to make Katie's favorite grilled cheese sandwiches. I even learned to braid her hair, though it took dozens of YouTube tutorials and a lot of patience on Katie's part. More importantly, I learned to listen. Katie talked about her daddy constantly, and I encouraged her to share every memory, every story, every moment of love they'd shared. I wanted her to know that loving Daniel and missing him was not only okay but necessary. We created new traditions too. Saturday morning pancakes in our pajamas, evening walks around the neighborhood, art projects that covered every surface of our apartment. I discovered that success wasn't measured in stock prices or quarterly reports, but in the sound of Katie's laughter and the warmth of her small hand in mine. 3 months after Daniel's death, I made a decision that shocked everyone who knew me. I stepped down as CEO of Grace Enterprises. I'd worked my entire adult life to build that company, but I realized that the most important job I'd ever have was being Katie's mom. "You're really going to give up everything?" my assistant asked, incredulous. "I'm not giving up anything," I said, watching Katie play with blocks in the corner of my office. "I'm finally getting everything I never knew I wanted." The first time Katie called me Mom was on a Thursday evening in February. We were making dinner together, or rather, I was attempting to make dinner while Katie helped by adding approximately 3 times the necessary amount of salt to everything. "Mom, can I have a snack?" she asked casually, and then froze, her eyes wide. "I mean, Ella, I didn't mean to." I knelt down to her level, my heart pounding. "Katie, you can call me whatever feels right to you. If you want to call me Mom, that's okay. If you want to call me Ella, that's okay too." She considered this seriously. "What if I want to call you Mom? But I'm worried Daddy might be sad." "Oh, sweetheart." I pulled her into my arms. "Your daddy loved you so much. All he wanted was for you to be happy and loved. I think he would be thrilled to know that you have someone who loves you like a mom should." "Do you love me like a mom should?" "I love you more than all the stars in the sky," I said, the words coming easily now. "I love you more than anything in this whole world." She was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled, that radiant smile that could light up entire rooms. "Then I think I'll call you Mom." We've been together for almost a year now, and I can honestly say that this has been the most challenging and rewarding year of my life. Katie is thriving in school, making friends, and slowly healing from the loss of her father. She still talks about Daniel every day, and I've made sure his pictures are displayed prominently throughout our new house. A cozy place with a big backyard where Katie can play, and a garden where we've planted flowers in Daniel's memory. I've started a new company, but this time it's different. It's smaller, more focused on work-life balance and supporting working families. I've learned that true success isn't about how much money you make or how many people work for you. It's about the love you give and receive, the lives you touch, and the legacy you leave behind. Katie is my legacy now. Every day I watch her grow stronger, braver, and more beautiful. She has Daniel's eyes and his kind heart, but she's developing her own unique spirit. She wants to be a doctor when she grows up, so I can help sick daddies get better. She's teaching me about resilience, about hope, about the simple joy of being present in each moment. Last week, she drew a picture of our family, her, me, and Daniel watching over us from heaven. She titled it "My Perfect Family," and I realized that's exactly what we are. Not perfect in the traditional sense, but perfect in the way that matters most. We're a family built on love, forgiveness, and second chances. Sometimes I think about that rainy day when a little girl walked into my office and asked where she could buy a mom. I didn't know then that she wasn't really looking to buy a mother. She was looking to give someone the chance to become one. She was the answer to prayers I'd been too afraid to pray. Daniel gave me the greatest gift imaginable, the opportunity to love his daughter as my own. And Katie gave me something I'd never known I was missing, the chance to be the mother I was always meant to be. Every night, as I tuck her into bed and listen to her prayers, I'm reminded of how much our lives have changed. From that moment when she asked, "Where can I buy a mom?" to now, when she whispers, "I love you, Mom," before falling asleep. We've created something beautiful from the ashes of loss and regret. I've learned that love isn't something you can buy or earn or deserve. It's something you give freely, without expecting anything in return. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you get to receive it back tenfold. Daniel was right when he said that being Katie's father gave his life meaning. Being her mother has given mine purpose. And every day, I'm grateful for the little girl who walked into my office with $17.53, looking to buy something that can only be given from the heart. We're a family now, Katie and I. A family built on love, strengthened by loss, and held together by the unbreakable bond between a mother and her daughter. And that's worth more than all the money in the world.